Hello, welcome back to HowtoDandD. Today it's all about monster lore and monster workshops. This is where I talk about monster lore, and then we maybe deal with some of the tactics for using a monster in your game, and also we do some sort of rebuilding, or we do some tinkering. We lift up the hood and have a look and see how things are functioning. So that's what this is all about. Today is the Cockatrice. Now, I know some people can say Cockatrice, and I've been taught since I am in New Zealand that when you say a vowel, and the vowel is followed by CE, ICE, then the I gets the I sound rather than the E sound. So Cockatrice, ice, ice, E at the end, ice. For those of you who in North America might be pronouncing it slightly differently. Maybe I'm incorrect in how that is supposed to be pronounced, but I'm going to go with it's Cockatrice rather than Cockatrice. Okay. Now that'll be probably the only difference I would say that we're going to wind up with today. Other than that, I believe we should be all good. Anyway, that's all I have to say. How's it going, Noroak? How are you? Noroak is a patron, supports the channel on Patreon. I'm going to put up a poll. I'm going to ask you a question. Feel free to take part in that question, that poll, and we'll see how we go. All right. I'm almost ready. I'm going to pull out my earplugs and we're going to fire on into it. I have lots of information for you today. There is very little on the Cockatrice. So for me, it is one of those topics I wanted to actually deal with. So if there's a lot of information, I'm going to leave it alone. If there's very little information, I'm going to deal with it. Hope you have some food, some drink. Make sure you're comfortable. We're about to fire away. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Am I talking about the chicken, the rooster, the cockatrice, the cockatrice? Oh my god, look, it could be anything, couldn't it? So I'm going to go cockatrice. This is a very strange looking creature. Should you be terrified by a creature like this? It looks basically like a very sick chicken. It looks like a very sick chicken, but it's not a very sick chicken. It's actually got a feature and ability that's quite terrifying in many respects, and frankly I am surprised that many people have not been more terrified by actually having to deal with this creature. So today is the day that we go and we unravel the secrets of our cockatrice. The cockatrice is an eerie, repulsive hybrid of a lizard, a cock, and a bat. It's infamous for its ability to turn flesh to stone, and the cockatrice is feared by anybody who knows about this monster. The cockatrice is about the size of a large goose or turkey and has the head and body of a rooster with two bat-like wings and a long tail of a lizard tipped with a few feathers. Those feathers are important. A cockatrice's feathers are golden brown, its beak is yellow, its tail is green, and its wings are grey. The cockatrice's wattles or comb and eyes are bright red. Females, which are much rarer than the male cockatrice, differ only in that they have no wattles or comb. That's the only difference. So what is the biology of this creature? Well, as it happens, we know a little bit, but actually not that much. The average cockatrice has a lifespan of between 5 and 10 years, just like a chicken, but can live as long as 30 years. Although a cockatrice has bat wings, they're not equipped with their bone structure for sustained flight, so they fly fairly quickly, but not very well for very long. Unlike lizards, the cockatrice can't sacrifice its tail and regrow a new tail as an escape method. The venom of the cockatrice is released by saliva glands in the mouth that lower blood pressure, stop the nerves sending signals to the muscles, and prevent blood clotting, which usually results in paralysis and or death. The droppings of the cockatrice can indicate the gender of the monster because the male poop will have the shape of the letter J, while the female's is more like a spiraled shape. Cockatrice have small holes in the head located behind the ears that house the ear structure. So they have no external ear structure whatsoever that can pinpoint sound made a mile away. So their hearing is very, very good. Because the eyes of the cockatrice are positioned on the side of the head rather than in front of the head, they have a 270-degree field of vision. So they can see almost completely behind them. The cockatrice retina contains 7 types of photoreceptors, which consist of double rods and double cones. This is quite unusual. This gives the creature exceptional vision. There is speculation that from some sages that the cockatrice can actually see an ultraviolet radiation, any kind of ultraviolet radiation, that particular wavelength that it can actually pick up. Now the brain of a cockatrice is the size of a pea, and it's particularly stupid as a creature, not so much because of its brain function, but due to the excessive aggressive instinct that it has that is hardwired into this little monster. That's actually what makes it quite stupid. It winds up being very impulsive as a creature. So how does combat look with a monster like this? Well, the cockatrice will fiercely attack anything which it considers to be a threat to itself or its lair. When attacking, the cockatrice will attempt to grapple the foe, which it's not very good at, and then touch any kind of exposed flesh, turning it to stone. Flocks of cockatrice will do their utmost to overwhelm and confuse their opponents, and they will sometimes fly directly into the face of their victim. While the fatal touch of the cockatrice beak will affect victims' flesh, it will also affect them if they tap into clothing or leather or fabric. Primarily because the beak is sharp enough to probably penetrate the clothing and that fabric. But it will not work on metal armor. So any kind of metal it can't get through. That's too hard. The cockatrice's petrifying touch will, however, extend into the ethereal plane. Much to your surprise, I'm thinking, look, so in other words, you can actually petrify a ghost or a entity that is ethereal in nature. Odd, but possible. The cockatrice is somewhat aware of the limits of its power, and by natural selection it has taught itself to strike only the exposed flesh. So it knows that going for the exposed flesh is the best option. If large areas of an opponent's flesh are exposed, it should be assumed that the cockatrice will automatically touch or target that fleshy area. If the target is reasonably well armored, then the cockatrice is very unlikely to significantly injure the victim and certainly not petrify them. If a cockatrice dies, its beak's petrification ability will end, except for the tail feathers that will always petrify on contact. And that is one of the things you've got to be careful with. The tail feathers are actually probably more dangerous than any other part of the cockatrice, particularly its beak. There's also speculation that just any kind of contact with the cockatrice will also petrify you. Now, the habitat and society of our cockatrice. What is that like? The cockatrice is immune to its own petrification powers, but spells and different creatures that also have petrifying powers will affect the cockatrice, so it can be turned to stone or petrified. The diet of your cockatrice or cockatrice consists of seeds, nuts, berries, flowers, insects, lizards, mice, frogs, snakes, small animals, and it's an omnivore, so it will eat a variety of different things. When a cockatrice hunts these creatures, the creature does not employ its power to petrify living things because it can't eat stone or petrified material. And it does this, it can actually choose to turn off the petrification ability. The only part of the cockatrice that can't be turned off are the tail feathers at the end. Those tail feathers are the only thing that can't be turned off. Many cockatrice are distinguished from other avians by its unusual habits and its nasty temperament. It's got a very bad temper. Since female cockatrice are extremely rare, they are the dominant sex and often will have more than one male mate. In fact, male cockatrice fight or strut for the privilege of joining a female's harem. So if you were thinking that it would be the males that have the harem, no, the females have the harem. There's going to be a lot of males surrounding just one female. Those mated cockatrice groups usually build their nests in caves deep within the ground. Nest sites are usually permanent, and the cockatrice consistently seeks to decorate its nest with or line it with shiny objects such as stones and gems. This is to indicate its prestige and its importance within the hierarchy of its own flock. There is only a 25% chance that any given cockatrice egg will hatch, and those fertile that do hatch, that are actually fertile and hatch, take within 11 to 12, possibly 19 days. So within the span of about 11 to 19 days, it will hatch. The young cockatrice reach maturity and full power usually within about 6 months. Once the cockatrice achieves adulthood, the hatchlings are driven away from the nesting site by the parents, so they have to find their own way. So large groups of cockatrice encountered frequently will be the young that have been driven out of the nest and have temporarily united for survival. A communal approach to incubation of cockatrice eggs is adopted, and it is taken based on the pecking order established within the flock. So that means just like a flock of chickens, there's usually a pecking order that is established, like who's the most important, who's in charge, and who is not. And the same thing occurs within a cockatrice community. The ecology of our cockatrice and what that looks like. Now, the ecology of the cockatrice, they thrive in the wilderness. That's their home. That's where they really do thrive. The petrification power of the cockatrice makes it immune to most predators, and it enables it to compete with other birds for food very easily. So there's really no predator that will go after the cockatrice. The feathers of the cockatrice are prized by certain wizards, as many magical scrolls must be inscribed with pens made from quills from the feathers of a cockatrice, which presents its own problems because, of course, remember, some of those feathers can wind up causing problems for you. So you've got to very carefully wrap them in such a way that you don't wind up making contact with the thing. Many people also seek out the unhatched eggs or even the live cockatrice as unusual pets or guardians. It's not unusual to use them like a guard dog. A cockatrice can be sold for, or an adult one, can be sold for between 500 to 1,000 gold pieces on the black market. And if you were looking for, say, a cockatrice egg that is fertile and not infertile, then you're probably looking for, it's a price going to be about 300 to 600 gold pieces each. So it's quite expensive to actually get hold of these. So if you wanted to sell them, you could. Now, how to incorporate the cockatrice into a Dungeons and Dragons adventure? How do you go about doing that? I've got a bunch of different ideas that I'm going to suggest to you. You don't have to like all of them. Take the ones that you like and leave the ones that you don't. A cockatrice could serve as a dangerous animal companion or a pet for a player character if you can convince the player to do this. Eating the cooked eggs of a cockatrice provides, say, temporary improvement to your armor class. The exotic cockatrice cuisine cookbook. You've got a new book out on the market. It's gone to the top of the pops. It's the top seller, and it's the exotic cockatrice cuisine cookbook with different recipes published in, say, a major city that's just come out. You could have a rebel cockatrice militarize a flock of domesticated chickens to escape their hen house if you wanted to, or the the chicken farm they're on. A farm can have a rooster that is in fact a cockatrice that crows early in the morning, but also keeps away the predators, so that the other chickens can actually do their thing, and rather than getting eaten by foxes and various other creatures. A local mountain dwarf could operate a cockatrice farm to sell the parts for inflated prices. So you could actually have a farm operated by a mountain dwarf. What about a cockatrice that predicts the changing seasons? A little bit like the Groundhog Day movie. You could have a gnome that creates a clockwork cockatrice robot as a weapon of war if you're wanting to militarize it. You could have a small town is swarmed by a flood of cockatrice that terrorize the locals. A little bit like the Alfred Hitchcock movie The Birds, which is a very good movie, by the way. Miners might release crates of these cockatrice into dungeons and mines to turn the threatened subterranean monsters found there to stone statues, rather than having to fight them off. Right, okay, we find a monster while we're trying to dig into the ground and find minerals and rare ores and so forth. Don't need to fight it. You get out your crate, you open the crate, let the cockatrice out and run for it, and let the cockatrice deal with those creatures. You could have a Medusa keeping a small flock of cockatrice to create statues for her garden ornament shop if you wanted to. Only thing is that the Medusa can potentially turn the cockatrice into stone. So you might need to give your Medusa some sunglasses or some sort of protective glasses so that that vision doesn't turn them to stone. And of course, the other thing is the Medusa might need to be wearing plate armor. You could have elite boxing and martial arts training sessions that involve catching a live cockatrice without being transformed into a stone statue. Now, a little bit like the old Rocky movie. Now, I need to thank those people on the Dungeon Master Roundtable. When we talked about the cockatrice, they presented some very clever ideas. A character could be petrified. Now, this is probably the one thing that I want to nail right down. This is a really good one. If a character is petrified by a cockatrice, then having the party search for a cure, so it needs to be found to undo the effect of the petrification or stoning of that character. And they may need to seek out the fabled mandrake plant root to actually make a concoction that will change the form of their former colleague. So those are some ideas I thought I would present to you and see what you think. Now, how do you go about defeating the cockatrice? Well, wearing metal armor, and if you can wear full plate armor, even better, because the cockatrice beak can't transform metal into stone, and neither can the feathers at the end of the tail. Don't engage the cockatrice in close quarter melee weapons because of its petrification ability. Instead, targeting the cockatrice with short and long range projectile weapons and spells is probably the smartest thing to do if you are able to do so. And then running away from the cockatrice is also a very sensible strategy. You don't actually need to fight it. Why even risk it? Now, the publications and the origin of this creature are quite odd. The original biblical beast could petrify a victim with the cockatrice's gaze, with its touch, and with its breath. So it had really bad breath as well. And it appeared more like a dragon in form than a chicken or rooster. The basilisk and the cockatrice have been used interchangeably over time, probably because of their similar petrification ability. And there may have been some confusion about whether we were dealing with something that is a lizard-like creature like the basilisk or a snake, or are we dealing with something that's more like a chicken? Now, the original Dungeons & Dragons set in 1974 had the cockatrice in it. The Monster Manual for First Ed Edition in 1977 also had this creature. We get a monstrous manual in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Ed Edition in 1993, which actually talks about the cockatrice again. It showed up again in the Monster Manual for version 3 in 2000. And then it didn't appear in, I think, yes, that's right. It did appear in the Monster Manual for 3.5 in 2003. And then we get the Monster Manual number 2 for 4th ed edition, and that appeared in 2009, and then it showed up again finally in the Monster Manual for 5e in 2014. So it's been around a very long time. It's a cool monster. It presents a lot of potential story ideas and concepts that you can utilize that extend beyond just we just had a fight with a chicken-like creature. Now, if you have any questions about the Cockatrice or Cockatrice, however you want to say it, if you have any feedback you would like to provide, use the comment section. And thank you for watching my video. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those keep rolling those videos, keep rolling those dice. 20s, keep rolling those 20s. Apparently, I'm rolling videos and dice and 20s. I'm rolling something. All right. One big slip up during the whole thing. Not too bad. I thought I did pretty well considering I've been talking for the last 22 minutes or 20 minutes. I thought I did pretty well. So we're going to go through the chat very quickly. And then we're going to go into the process of our workshop. And we're going to have a look at this creature and see if it needs something done. So here we go. Should the Cockatrice only petrify a creature for 24 hours? Yes, 11%. Okay. 33% said no. Okay. Out of 9 votes. Undecided, 44%. So people are undecided. Now, what I am going to suggest to you after seeing this poll, so I don't care, 11%. So it's very much, it's all over the place in terms of how people think the Cockatrice should actually work in their game. So maybe that is not the most important feature of the Cockatrice is the petrification, which does seem to make no sense whatsoever. But people are obviously, within the 9 votes that we get, they're very much split. Although it seems to me that most people are either undecided or don't want it to work that way. I'm not a fan of the 5e Cockatrice myself. So there's a lot more people undecided than anything else. Okay, so let's now I can't see the very top of the chat. I do apologize if I miss anybody. So Norak, you had put in here something and I can't see the top section of that there. So it's going to be impossible for me to read it. Loses its importance to the overall story. It is much more interesting to try and find a way to restore your friend. So I think that's what Noroak said. Noroak is a patron, by the way, and supports me on Patreon. Now, the best way to support me on Patreon is to go and join Patreon. You pay as little as $1 a month. There's no tiers. You can get everything. You get all the notes that I've made for this video and every other thing that I do. It all goes up onto Patreon. Okay, so you'll get all of that. That'll go up at the end of the week. I like the idea of having the Cockatrice turning somebody to stone or being petrified so that we do need to extend the story beyond we just keep going on. Do you know what I mean? It does mean we might have a bit of a side quest, but I do feel like there's some serious weight to doing something like that. Ultimately, that's one of the reasons why I like it. Also, too, the Cockatrice as a fight, as a monster that you fight, is a boring monster. The only thing that redeems it, other than being a fancy looking chicken, is the fact that it can petrify you. So doubling down on the petrification is where my head goes. But I understand if people aren't feeling the same way, okay? But then again, I'm more attached to how the monsters operated in the past. What made the Cockatrice a scary monster was not that it would kill you by beaking you to death or clawing you. It's because it could literally turn you to stone, and that's a big deal, right? Because then you have to answer the question, how do I get rid of that problem? Like, is there a way of solving that? And we want the players to have a way of solving it. Just because it adds more to the story. It's a far more interesting story than we killed a funny-looking chicken compared to we were fighting this funny-looking chicken and one of our players got turned to stone, so we had to go on a quest to find a way to restore them to their normal form. I like that story much more. Do you know what I mean? Okay, Nacho Man, also a patron, supports me on Patreon. Hello, how are you doing? What does it taste like? Probably tastes like chicken or turkey. I feel like the The cockatrice is probably more of a turkey rather than a chicken. Although it's referred to as, we are talking about cock as from rooster. Yeah, cockatrice, rooster, okay, chicken. However, maybe the effect should slowly turn them to stone over the course of either an hour or day, and that would give the opportunity for some great role playing. Well, yes and no. I think there's a place there's a place for this. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that the cockatrice almost never turns anybody to stone. I don't think I've ever had anybody turn to stone by the cockatrice, even when I've used it as a surprise encounter, just because they don't have that many hit points, and everybody is very, very aware of the potential risks of it pecking them. So they usually destroy it. They usually unload. I've seen people just supernova this thing, and of course that makes sense. Stony chicken in the pot. Madstone. Okay. Hello. How's it going, dearie? The abyssal chicken. I don't think the abyssal chicken holds a card to the cockatrice if it's done properly. Bro wings. Yeah. All right. Okay. I don't understand. I don't understand any of that. Byron Lee. Hello. How are you, Byron Lee? If you're still here. The monster looks like a dragon and a giant chicken mixed together. It can. The descriptions around it, originally it was viewed more as a combination of dragon and lizard rather than chicken. But the sort of the lore and the mythology and legend of this creature has changed over time, obviously. And remember, when it was adopted by Dungeons and Dragons, it was taking its information from what it had already been seen in the past. Okay. Does D&D have top of the pops? Top of the poops? Yeah, look, if you're on my channel, there's always a possibility I will talk about poo. And we're talking about a creature that looks like a chicken, so we're going to talk about poo. I couldn't help myself. That detail needed to be there. It's a classic creature. Yeah, absolutely. I have a Cockatrice mini, so probably using it. I don't actually, so I'm probably not going to be. We're not going to be using the battle mat today, primarily because there's no point. The creature is so simple to use. Okay, it's essentially, in terms of what you do is with this creature is you hide it so it can get a surprise on your player characters, whether it's in a box or somewhere else. They open a door, they open something, out it comes, it pecks them, turns somebody to stone. If they're lucky, if they're really unlucky. They have to be very unlucky because we're dealing with an attack roll and 2 saving throws that you have to fail to actually turn to stone in 5e. So that means if you're working with that, you have to surprise, because after it's done its one attack, the party will decimate it, destroy it, and like they're going to be throwing fireballs at each other to get rid of the thing. Okay, you have a question, Byron Lee. Okay, let's have a look at your question. Would a cockatrice be a good challenge for a beginner player to fight? I don't think it's a beginner player fight. I don't think you should use cockatrice for beginner players. Or they're best for high level players. Not for high level players. Not high level characters, but experienced players. I would say use the cockatrice as for intermediate to experienced players. A cockatrice for a new player who's just trying to get to grips with the game is probably going to have a bad time. But then again, the 5e cockatrice is awful because its DC is very low and it almost never is successful in doing anything. The number of times I've heard of people actually having the cockatrice turn somebody to stone are tiny. There's been a handful of people out of the people who've used it. So it doesn't achieve what it's supposed to achieve. It just doesn't work. You like the permanent petrification? I do too. I like the idea that it's permanently petrified, but then it's clear to me that the pole does not feel that way. So that's maybe not where we need to go. But what we might do is at least look at how it's been built. Okay. You're unwell near dairy by the looks of it. I can see you've got, yeah, I don't know what's going on. No, I haven't blocked the word fart, okay? Please do not get silly. Okay, Noroak. It is more interesting than that they have a variety of appearances. I could put down a mini that looks like a chicken version and watch as the players figure it out. Yeah, I do agree that if you have your cockatrice look maybe more lizard-like or more like a chicken or more like a rooster or more like a turkey, that it could make things a bit more interesting or even more bat-like rather than something else. So yeah, I agree. So drinking some water. Getting myself ready, pulling up my phone, and today is the day we are going to go through and check and see what our cockatrice is actually up to. Yeah. I want to know. I would like to know, is this thing being built in a way that actually makes sense? Because as we've discovered, many of the monsters for 5e don't even follow the design intent that has been put out by Wizards of the Coast. And as a result, we wind up with some very strange and bizarre things going on. So I have turned to the Dungeon Master Guide on page 274. That's where I'm looking. I'm using the Create a Quick Monster stat block. There's a chart there, pardon me. And we're going to look at the cockatrice. Oh, man. And we'll see if I can find what I'm looking for. No, that's not it. Okay, so that's the window. Let's find our window, bring it up. Okay, that's good. Almost there. Just give me a second while I bring us over to D&D Beyond, and we'll work our way through our little snooker. Oh, yeah, okay, so I'm gonna have problems if I want to look there. I can't see very much, but I can look there, and I can see that clearly. Okay, this is going to be an interesting day. My eyes aren't obviously shifting back and forth that well. All right, so let's have a look at this creature, and I'll pull it over so that you can see what's going on. I believe that I can grab this, and is that going to be all right? I think that'll be all right. We'll go over here. Okay, so this is the cockatrice. However you want to say it, people. However you want to say it. And let's have a look at how this is panning out. The challenge rating for this creature. This is a half challenge rating. So a half challenge rating cockatrice. And I'm going to have to take the glasses off. So cockatrice, so we're looking at proficiency is supposed to be, so it's a half. The proficiency is obviously correct because a half should be a +2. That doesn't go lower than that. I definitely think it's a petrification DC should be higher. Yes, I agree. The DC should be higher. It should be at least a 13. It should not be an 11. That's way too low. So our first problem, armor class. Armor class is 11. The armor class of a challenge rating half creature is supposed to be a 13. But the reason for that is its dexterity. So as a result of having such a low dexterity, which I'm not entirely sure that I agree with, I am inclined to think we could push that up a little bit. Its attack bonus is a +3. Okay, so armor class could probably go up. AC probably could go up because that actually drops it down. That would mean if we did that though, that we'll wind up with a creature that is probably sitting in the vicinity of having to have a dexterity increase. You would probably have to do that. Less Jabberwocky, yes. A lesser Jabberwocky, I see what you're going with. How's it going, King, Master, Lord? All right, so AC, I think, is our first problem. But we can decide whether we do that or do anything with that. Our hit points should be sitting in the range of 50 to 70. So HB, what does our HP look like? Our HP is 27, but that's not the number we need to focus on. It's the maximum number of hit points that the creature would have. Does it sit within 50 and 70? 50 to 70 is what we're looking for a challenge rating half, surprisingly. So 6 sixes are 36, then add another 6. 36 is 42. So we've only got 42 hit points. So our hit points probably need to go up as well. We probably need to be aiming for that. We probably need to be aiming for this, for AC. So that already indicates that there's a few things that are a bit too low. Yep. All right, so next on our list, half challenge rating. It's attack bonus. Attack is supposed to be a 3, which is fine. We can actually bump that up by 1 point, and it will not have any bearing or effect on the challenge rating usually. So that's actually spot on. So that's good. So that's a big tick. And then our damage per round. Just ignore the petrification ability for now. So damage should be sitting within 6 and 8 per round. And what are we actually doing per round with this creature? This creature does a grand total, because it's supposed to be a small creature, it's going to be doing 3 points of damage. So 3 points of damage is probably too low. It's way lower than it, so it should probably be going up. We really want the damage output to be going up. Norok, I've had to catch the chickens when I worked on my uncle's farm. They are dexterous, a little shizers. Yeah, so that's one of the things I was thinking, Norok, that I felt like dexterity 12 is probably not high enough. If you remember if you've ever tried to catch a chicken, and if you've ever had to go through watching Sylvester Stallone in the Rocky movie try to catch that chicken for his training, you know it's not an easy task. So we can probably pump up the dexterity to increase the armor class by at least 1 point, and to increase the attack bonus. Now the reason being is you're going to be throwing this at level 1 characters more than likely, or potentially higher, and a +3 is just nowhere near enough. It's almost never going to hit. Particularly if you're dealing with high-level characters. Most of the time you're going to be having to roll, for anybody with armor, you're probably having to roll a 15 to get through their shield and armor. Do you know what I mean? That's really high. Old DM, I don't get the line of vision having whatever. Right. Okay. Have a prohab, a phobia of chickens, unless it's KFC. You have a phobia of chickens? Okay, fair enough. Okay, so let's keep looking at so damage output probably needs to go up, and we can do that a little bit, but it's not going to be anywhere near as much. We're going to have to change the dice that we use. And then the DC. Now the DC on this thing is way too low, people. The DC is an 11. And it needs to go up, because it really should be at least a 13. DC 13. That is a change we definitely want to make. Now, the question is, the petrification ability. Petrification. Do we really want it to last just 24 hours, or do we want it to be a bit more permanent than that? Is it just going to be a minor convenience, because this is just a minor convenience? Or do we want to make it a major feature? So what we're going to do is, I'm not going to touch the petrification aspect of it. I'm going to let you in chat to make a decision about that. We are going to rebuild it. We're going to do a couple of changes. We're going to give it some more hit points. We're going to give it a bit more dexterity. We're going to give it a better armor class. We're going to give it a bit more damage. We're going to give it a better chance to actually hit its target. And then we're going to start making some hard decisions. DC 15 is worth your vote. Now, the reason you're thinking DC 15 is because you want at higher levels, you want the DC to actually work, but it still won't work. Do you know what I mean? It's still not going to be that successful. So remember, it's a challenge rating half. So let's just we can go as high as probably something like a DC 14, but 15 is pumping it up to another challenge rating level for sure. So let's put this through the calculator. I have a calculator I can use for this, and it's called 5e Tools. Let me just squeeze on back, and we're going to put it through here and see it. I'm saying that this is probably out of whack, and I'm pretty sure the calculator will tell us the same thing. So this is the 5e challenge rating calculator. I'm going to use this to actually see if we really did need to make any changes. And I would say we are. So that's a half challenge rating. The number of hit points it does. It had how many hit points? 42. 42 hit points, I believe. No, it had less than that. It's 27, isn't it? 27 hit points on this creature. Yes, 27 hit points. They're not that many. Armor class is 11, which is very low. It is a small creature. It's listed the damage dice as being a D6 rather than a D4, and yet is hit dice. It's listed. How many hit dice do we get? We get 6 hit dice. No, I see what we're doing here. No, that was my mistake. So that is correct. So it's 6 hit dice. 6, yes, that's correct. Constitution, what was our constitution? It's a 12, which is fine. It's a little bit weird, but it's fine. Major Laser, how are you? You can dream. You can dream, but that doesn't mean that we won't be going for maybe a 14. That might happen. 7 days to cure petrification or victim permanently turns to stone. Well, yes, you could do that. Petrification is essentially an instant kill if it's permanent. I vote 24 hours. No, it's not actually. I don't think that it is. It's magic. It's magic. Do you know what I mean? Magic is magic. It doesn't have to be that way. Does Greater Restoration cure petrification? I don't believe it does. But I could be wrong. I haven't looked at the spell right now. Alright, so damage per round is very low. Damage per round comes in at 3. And its attack bonus is a 3. It uses a save, but the save is very low. Does it have vulnerabilities? I don't think it's got any vulnerabilities. No. No vulnerabilities. It's not immune to anything. Flies and can deal damage at range. No, it doesn't. Does it have a saving throw? It doesn't believe it has a saving throw. No, it got none of that. So we've got none of those things. Now we're going to scroll down here and look at what we get to actually put in here. Now, the petrification ability is probably not going to be listed here as a major feature. And of course, it probably isn't a major issue if your petrification is only 24 hours, because that's just a minor inconvenience. Even it's maybe a major inconvenience if it's 7 days. You know what I mean? Well, magic can bring people back from the dead. Exactly. That's my point. Is that being stoned to death isn't you know, it is what it is. Magic will solve that problem. Now, possession, Okay, so we're not having to do anything else. Let's have a look at what the numbers come out as. So that's listing this as so this is what the calculator says it is. Based on those numbers. Challenge rating 0. Can you people see this? Challenge rating 0. Offensive challenge rating 0. Defensive challenge rating 0. The only thing that it's got going for it is the petrification. So this is a broken monster, in my opinion. Broken monsters we fix. Okay? Good. So Greater Restoration does remove petrification. What level is Greater Restoration? If anybody is able to tell me, that would be great. Because this actually means that being petrified and turned to stone is not the end of the world. Because Greater Restoration is a spell that you can kind of access to do something about this, right? And not only that, it means that, okay, well, maybe we don't have to track down that Mandrake route. So that's fine. That's good. So really, them getting stoned or petrified is not a big deal. It just really isn't. So where's my cockatrices? Cockatrices. There it is. There we go. We'll do this thing. We'll do this thing. It's a 5th level spell. 5th level spell. Okay, so you're going to be about mid-level when you finally get access to it, roughly. Which kind of makes sense. So you might have a character that's sitting in the lobby of your main hideout, your castle, your manor, or whatever, your stronghold, and eventually you get to a certain point and you can unpetrify them. Now that would be quite fun. You can bring back that character. Or you seek out somebody who can cast the spell. So, wonderful. Since Greater Restoration cures, then I'm leaning towards 1 week. All right. It is just a temporary inconvenience. That is my opinion. I know a lot of people don't necessarily see it that way. I can see people are now starting to think, okay, if Greater Restoration can get rid of this thing, are we really needed to worry about it? And I'm glad you're starting to think this way, people, because monsters should create stories, and monsters should be scary. And what we want from our monsters is for them to be scary. If they're not scary, then what are we doing? Now, the other question is, do we want the tail to do anything as well? Do we give it a tail attack? It's got a bite attack, but it's also got a tail. It's probably not going to employ its tail as an attacking tool. The creature's going to want to have its head and its eyes facing its enemy. I don't think it's a spinning problem is too good of a adventure hook to pass up. Getting stoned, what do you say? Okay. It doesn't matter what level they are. We can send them on a quest to find somebody who can cast this. That's not a problem. Or Mandrake Root, if you want to use Mandrake Root. So, our first problem is hit dice. It doesn't have enough hit points. It just doesn't have enough. We need to push those hit points up just a little bit more. Okay? If we do that, we kind of solved a lot of our problems. We also need to push up our armor class as well. To push up our armor class, we're going to give our dexterity a boost. So we're going to go dexterity. Instead of 12, we're going to go 14. Start with this. That will affect our armor class. That'll go up to 12. It's not 13, it's 12. But 1 point off 13 doesn't really change the challenge rating that much, people. So that's not a big deal, but it's closer to what we really want it to be. And a chicken is a fast little sod, so that's fine. Next, we're leaving the strength as it is. We're going to do something about the hit point modifier that we're doing. It has only got a constitution of 1, a modifier of 1, so it's getting 6 of these. So we do a calculation of that. Let's just see if I can figure that one out and make sure. How many D6 hit dice do we need to get our hit points in the right realm? We need to go aiming for 50 to 70. I'm leaning towards the lower end of this rather than the high end, by the way, because it's kind of basically just a chicken. Do you know what I mean? Hello, Fender. How are you doing? Also a patron and a moderator. Welcome. Crank up the HP. I want to homebrew this thing into a... yeah, we're going to crank up the HP. We're just going to have to figure out what it's going to be. So, I'll move my Dungeon Master Guide out of the way. I'll bring in my Monster Manual. Since I've got the numbers for that there. And that'll make it a little bit easier for me to track what's going on in front of me. An elder ostrich-sized cockatrice is an interesting idea. All right, so let's have a look. So we're going to go with hit points. And we've got 6d6, which is 6d6. So 66 is 3.5 for each one. 3.5. And then we multiply that by 6, and it's not up. So we're going to go 7 and see if that pushes it up enough. So that is going to be its grand total of 3 7s are 21. and then 7 halves is going to be 7 halves is 3.5. Then we have to add in another additional 7 hit points because we are of our con modifier. So that comes out at 10. Did I do something wrong here? 10, I think that's right. 10. 10 and 21 is 31 hit points. That's the average, but what's the maximum hit points? Have you considered having it some kind of frenzy ability? I have. How's it going, Dungeons and Chronics? How are you doing? I have, but I don't want to. Every time we do this, I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, because for you, the frenzy ability works for you. But what I'm trying to do when I do this is show you the process of rebuilding your monsters. That's part of the process of this live stream, is to show you the way you do it, but also to build you a better monster than that was already built before, that kind of does its thing, what it's supposed to do. And any sort of special things that you want to attack on, you do those though yourself. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, what we wind up doing is building the right Cockatrice for Fendar, but nobody else. So that's why you'll always find that I do tone some of your ideas down. Don't take it personally or anything like that. It's not like that at all. Okay, so we're going with 6 sevens. 6 times 7 equals. So 6 sevens is 35, and then add another 7, 35, 42. And then we add in our 7, gives us a 49. 49 is still probably not enough. So we're going to pump it up. I'm going to go 8 of these instead. So we need 8 of them instead. It's just a bit too far off. We want to be in the 50, 70 range. So let's go. Now the calculation for 8 is 8 threes. What's 8 threes? 16, 24. Correct. And then 8 halves is 4. Correct. I hope that's I got it right. And then 16, yeah, I think that's right. And then we've got our thing. This is now an 8. So our grand total comes to 28 and 8. 28 and 8 is 36. That's the average. So what is the maximum going to be now? Because that didn't work before. 6 times 8. 6 8s are 48. And then we add our 8. Comes out at 56. 56 is good. 56 is good. Its tail is not prehensile. It's not a prehensile tail, King Master Lord. I mean, you could make it do that, but I'm probably not going to. We'll just see how our damage. I think our damage output is going to all be fixed up pretty quickly. Thought the backstabbers, bro. 2 weeks out of work. Okay, look, try not to let things get down on you. Okay, so let's fix the number of hit dice. Hit point dice count. So that is 8. It's a D6. Our hit point modifier is actually now an 8, and our average comes out at 36. But our top, the maximum we're going to get from this is 56, which sits within 50 and 70. So we're all good now. Our hit points are actually looking pretty nice. So this is hopefully going to save. We'll see if it does save it. But I like you can flop a lizard tail at anyone's feet. And you should do that yourself. You should add that into the monster yourself. One of the things that I'm pretty tame with what I'm trying to do with these monsters, really. What you can do with a monster is going to be far more interesting. Let's get real. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so yes. We've seen all this. So armor class is up a little bit. Our dexterity is up. Our attack bonus, I need to adjust the attack bonus. And I need to adjust the DC, because our DC is way too small, correct? DC is too small, so we need to fix that. So now our attack bonus is a, where is it? It's a 3, goes to a 4. Proficiency is +2. Dexterity modifiers +2, because we've now got a dex of 14, not 12. And we go through here and find that number again. If it's to hit, bite, roll, 1 hit. And the damage output that we're doing is way too low. So instead of a D4, all we need is a few more points. We don't need much. So we're going to get with our attack. We've already got a +2 from dexterity. We're using dexterity in this case. Okay? Instead of a +1, we get a +2. So that partly helps. If we also push our monster into a D6 or a D8, I think a D8 might be the solution. Or we include a tail attack and give it multi-attack. So this is the question. Do we give it a tail attack that does something very similar to the bite, in fact, identical to the bite, okay? And we can transfer the effect of it, you petrifying something. We can transfer it over to the special traits section, and we can have a bite and a tail. So, do you want a bite and a tail? Do you want a bite and tail attack? Because let's get real, the attack on the tail is going to be minuscule. We're not going to make it a lot. It's going to be something like a little whiplash. It's going to be like bludgeoning damage +2, and that's it, with no damage dice. It'll be just straight. We don't have to do anything with it, because we don't need that much more. We're actually pretty close to where we need to be. So I want you to start thinking about this, people. Those of you who are here are probably more invested. But right now, this DC has got to go. This DC 11 has got to go. I'm going to take that out, because that's not good enough. So we're making it a 13. Minimum of 13. If we went as high as 14, we're dealing with a different challenge rating. And how much further away is that? Well, that would be challenge rating 4. But, again, we could potentially do that. So we would give it multi-attack, it would do a bite, and it would do a tail attack. Bite and tail, bite and tail, bite and tail. Otherwise, we can give it 2 bites, and that solves our problem as well. 2 bites rather than 1 bite means that, and that probably actually makes more sense, that it can peck you twice rather than it slaps you with its tail. Do you know what I mean? We're saying no damage at all, just the ability to trip with it. Well, we can do maybe 2 points of damage with the tail, because that would make sense. That's from the dexterity modifier, +2. And then it can knock you prone, which is fine. But it would also wind up affecting you and potentially turning you to stone, just like the peck. That's another way of dealing with it if we wanted to. Just popping in to leave a like and comment. Okay, thank you for that, Seeker. Hopefully I get to catch up with you some of the time. I know you are busy. Maybe it could physically control a target and then dominate the creature, its attack. No, too much going on there. Norok, too much. I can make it with a hammer. 2 bites sounds okay. I think 2 bites is probably the way to go. I don't think it would use its tail as an attack. I think what we do is we give it 2 bites. Each one will do 3 points of damage, which pushes us up to 6, which is where we need to be, 6 to 8 points of damage. And we have our petrifying ability. That's not too much going on there. Do you know what I mean? That's fine. So we need, I'm going to grab a, what creature What monster has a multi-attack with a peck? It doesn't even have to have multi-attack with a peck. It just has to have multi-attack. What creature can I pull multi-attack from? No, not 2 bites. 1 claw, push you over 1 bite. Yeah, right. When they are normally psionic. Really? No, I don't know that I agree with the claw. I mean, we could do claw, I suppose, rather than bite. Claw rather than a bite. Well, it's got fairly sharp-looking claws, so we could do that. If people like the idea of claw and bite, then we can do claw and bite. We just need a multi-attack creature now. And I can't remember who the heck we got here for that. Let's go bandit, I guess. That's probably bandit. Bandit. Do that. We'll go with that. Bandit. Has the bandit got multi? No, it didn't have multi-attack. What had a multi-attack? Is it the bandit captain? Yes, it did. Alright, so I'm just going to pull that and then make some adjustments. I can't remember what creatures have multi-attack and which don't. So we'll go here. Go paste. And we'll get rid of that bolding. And is it underlined? Why is it underlined? Does it need to be underlined? No, it doesn't need to be underlined. It doesn't need to be italic. Okay. The Cockatrice. Cockatrice makes 2 attacks. She can do claws a lot. Can arrest. So yeah, we'll go claw and we'll go with the bite or the peck. I don't know about pushing it over. The creature's too small to be pushing anything over. But a claw that seems fine. So we'll claw it. Okay, so we can actually give ourselves more versatility than that, can't we? Because we don't have to make a hard choice on this. A Cockatrice can make 2 melee attacks. With either its bite or claw. Bite or claws. Okay, so it means we can do 2 bite attacks, 2 claw attacks, a bite attack and a claw attack, or a claw attack or a bite attack. So we get all the options we want. So there's no fiddling around and like, oh, how should we do it? No, it's all sorted. So we've done that. Great. So, next, we need to have an actual claw attack in here. I need a creature. What's creature's got a claw? I will just go with a lion. I'll pull their claw attack out and plug it in and then change the maths on it. So there's a claw attack there. We're only going to be targeting 1 creature. We're going to be changing the damage output and everything. That's all fine. And we go in here and we put this in. That gives you your maximum versatility. The target hit with the Cockatrice's claw is affected by the petrification ability. Petrification trait. I'm going to port it over. Petrification. There we go. So that's in there. We've done it. Okay, so we can actually use either one of them. One won't matter in the slightest. We've solved that problem. And Actually, maybe I will just do that too. I think that's going to be just simpler and faster to do it that way. Copy, paste this. I will, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here. Sorry, just bear with me, people. I am just trying to figure out how to arrange this. So that is a 4 to hit. Plus 4. Our damage output is a D4. D4 plus 2. So it does 4 points of damage. And that's the claw. And we're also going to do the same with the other one. It's going to be identical. 1 foot, slashing damage, piercing damage. That's a D4 to hit, range, and it's doing exactly the same amount of damage. D4 plus 2 for the dexterity. We're using dexterity. Okay, so the only other thing I want to port across here is this thing here. So we copy it, and we'll include it in the bite as well. So that means you've got 2 chances of it actually working. That makes your cockatrice fairly dangerous now. A lot more dangerous than it was before. I don't know how people feel about that, but I think we'll do this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just save a bit of time in terms of trying to rearrange that mess. Cockatrice. Cockatrice. Give me it, baby. What do we got here? The undead cockatrice. Okay. So we're gonna take this. We're gonna copy that. I'm gonna port it over to here. We're gonna take all of this because we don't need that now. I'm gonna rip that out just like this. Okay. And I am going to, if the target is hit by a bite or claw attack, it must succeed on a DC 13, we decided. Maybe going to 14, Constitution saving throw. Magically petrified. Magically petrified. And so we will type in petrified. Petrified. And that will go down. Petrified. Okay, on a failed save, the creature begin. On a failed save, we're not gonna, because you have to hit it and you have to fail on the saving throw. That's 2 steps. We're gonna get rid of the 3rd step, people. I know why Wizards of the Coast does this. They just don't want to scare people away. But I'm removing that. Okay, I'm making an executive decision with regard to that. Is that we're going to get rid of that. But I'm going to take a break since it's 10 past the hour. And I will do my best to come back with some good solutions for you. So I'm going to put in the chat a question for you. Now my question is hashtag, do you like a 3-step petrification? Petrification. Petrification. I've got the word wrong. Hang on. Petrification or 2-step. I think a 2-step is more than adequate. That is the question I'm putting forward to you. Okay, so here it is, Arnold. I will be back in about 5 minutes or less, and then we'll continue tinkering with this cockatrice, which I feel like we're pretty close to finishing. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come back into this in a second. I just want to have a look at the chat before I go over to what I was doing. Because there's a couple of things that I want to add to this that I haven't mentioned, and we'll see how people respond to that. Undecided. Okay, so the vote is slightly changing as people watch. So you're starting to see what's taking form. Okay, should the cockatrice only petrify a creature for 24 hours? Yes, 25%. No, 19%. Undecided 44%, 12. Now you can't change your votes, unfortunately, out of the 16, but so this is what I'm going to put in here as a provisor for this ability that we're putting in here. Okay, so you've got a better idea of where my head is at with what we're doing here. All right, so I'm coming back over. Here we go. Let's work our way through this ability and scroll it up a little bit. So we got 2 attacks, same to hit, same amount of damage, different types of damage types, but all going to be using the petrification trait. Okay, and that's probably good. All right, so I want to go back here, and I want to type in Medusa. Medusa, you know why I'm typing in Medusa, don't you? Medusa has a petrifying gaze. Now, we're not using a petrifying gaze. Now, the older version of the cockatrice, if you looked at it, you got affected. We're not going to do that, okay? Instead, what we're going to do is we're just going to go with the claw and the bite. And we're also going to use the tail. But I've got a provisor with the tail because there's no tail attack as such. So it's not an attack that's going to be able to cause that. Does it make sense? But there's a provisor, and that is this little statement right here. See that little statement right there? We're going to take that little statement right there, and we're going to put it into a cockatrice. And I will go down a little bit because I think we need to say this. The petrification lasts until the creature is freed by the Greater Restoration spell or other magic. It's a Greater Restoration. Rest or ration. Okay, all right, so let's get rid of this. But we're going to add in something else. Now, I wanted to add in the mandrake root. Now, the reason I want to add in the mandrake root is there is some sort of lore behind the idea of using the mandrake root, right? So let's have a look at and consider this. Then there wouldn't be much of a point in introducing it to the game. Yeah, if the petrification lasts only 24 hours. We're not doing 24 hours. I'm getting rid of 24 hours. It's going. Okay? Okay, so on a failed save, the creature is turned to stone. That's all we need, people. Is the creature? No. On a failed save, the creature is petrified and turned to stone. We're getting rid of the repeat. That's going. We're building in our story. Okay. So that's all we really need to have there. We need to bring this up. The petrification lasts until a creature is freed by a potion made from mandrake root, the greater restoration spell, or other magic. So we're actually giving you an out for this creature. We're giving you a story out. So now this gives a signal to the Dungeon Master, when I use this monster and something goes wrong, there's a way for the players to get out of this. Rather than you turn to stone, you die, you now have to make a new character. No, what we're doing is we're trying to build on that. Does that make sense? Because right now the Cockatrice is a waste of your time. It doesn't do anything. 24 hours you turn to stone, like, you know, not a big deal. Well, we'll just go get pissed at the tavern. So it's not a scary monster, but now it's forcing us to go on a journey, just like the basilisk and its ability to turn you to stone, just like the Medusa. Now we have a look at the Medusa. The Medusa is a challenge rating 6 monster with a petrifying ability, but there's an out for it. And if we give them an out for it, that's all right. Even if they can't get access to greater restoration because it's a high level spell, the mandrake root, there's a way out of it. Other magic just means if you've got higher, more stronger magic than greater restoration, you're doing all right. Does that make sense? I don't know how people feel about that, but I think that is the best way. If the target is hit by a bite or a claw attack, it must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw against being magically petrified. On a failed save, the creature is petrified and turned to stone. The petrification lasts until the creature is freed by a potion made from mandrake root, the greater restoration spell, or other magic. There's one other proviso we need to add in here. Contact. Okay, I'll put this here. I'll put this after this last bit here. So contact with the tail feathers. Actually, I actually can put that in somewhere else, can't I? Let's be sparing with our words. If the target is hit by a bite attack, a claw attack, if the target is hit by a bite or claw attack, or touches the tail feathers, it must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw. So we're going to have a look at what the challenge rating puts this out at, because right now it's doing a lot more damage than it was before. Petrification has got an out for it, but it's not 24 hours. So it will last as long as it takes them to figure out how to solve the problem. And I think most of what we needed to do has been fixed. I'm relatively happy with the end result. I'm just going to save this. I'm going to check it. I'm going to put it through the calculator. We'll see what we get coming out the other end. You will tell me if you like what I've done here, or if you don't, or if you think there's something else that needs to be done. I'm all about making the monster the true horror that they are, and I think that does what it needs to do. What else did I want to do? Senses, dark vision. I'm fine with dark vision 60 feet. It doesn't matter. Skills. It doesn't have to have any skills. Movement. Its fly speed is 40 feet. Walking speed is 20 feet. I don't think we need to mark with any of that. I think we just leave that all alone. We go into our... come on. Here we go. My collection. We'll go down to our creature, and then we'll put it in, we'll pump it in and see what we get coming out the other end. So the Cockatrice, we didn't put in the petrification trait. I need to edit that. Sorry about that. I forgot about the petrification title, didn't I? Come on. Petrification. Full stop. We bold that, as we should. I believe that's right. And we italicize it. Okay, italic as well. That makes it look reasonably the same. If the target is hit by a bite or claw attack or touches the tail feathers, it must succeed. Okay, so we've got all that stuff that we needed. Let's save that again, and then we'll put it through the calculator. Hopefully I've got it all right this time. And switching over, there we go. Down, 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 down. So we've got plenty of options. We can do 2 bite attacks, we can do 2 claw attacks, or we can mix it up. And we've got our petrification ability kicking in. And they've got petrification trait right over here. So, hit points are better. Armor class slightly better. We may want to change the DC from a 13 to a 14, but we'll soon see if we need to do that, and we'll put it through the calculator. So let's reset it and see what we get. I expect this creature to be sitting in the range of being a challenge rating 1, in my opinion. That's where it probably needs to be. Right now, we are saying that it's challenge rating half. Our hit points, we calculated, I believe, at 36. Oops, not 30, that one, 36. Our armor class is now a 12, not a 13, correct? 13, it's 12, yeah. We bumped it up a little bit. Its size is still small. Its hit dice is right. It's got 8 hit dice, and then our constitution didn't change. So our hit points are correct. Our calculation was spot on. That's good. Cool. And then damage per round is actually going to be 8 points because there's 4 and 4. It comes to 8, which is within the criteria we were aiming for. Our attack bonus is now a 4 rather than a 3, so a little bit higher. It has a saving throw, which is not a 14 but a 13. It's looking like it's trying to make it a 14 though. It's got no vulnerabilities, it's got no resistances or immunities, it doesn't fly and do damage at range, it doesn't have any saving throws, it doesn't have any of that. There's nothing here for petrification, which it probably should have, but let's see what the challenge rating comes out. It comes out as a quarter. It is still listing this creature as a quarter. I would say the petrification probably bumps it up a little bit. So it's actually still saying that our monster is a little bit weak. So maybe we need to strengthen it up a little bit. Somebody had said, I can't remember who it was, that we need to make the DC a 14. 14 is actually not a huge difference to what it was before. We can probably do that. We could even pump up the armor class if we wanted to and give it natural armor if you felt like that made sense. So I'm going to type in here and ask you a question, hashtag increase DC or the AC. DC and AC. DC and AC and DC and AC. I mean, we can if we wanted to. Let's see what people have to say. We'll see what people have to say. Because right now it still says that it's a quarter, which doesn't take into consideration petrification. Petrification's a big deal. Like, that takes out a character, potentially. Yep. So it should have some weight, that. For sure. Absolutely. DC. Noroak has gone with the DC. If I see anybody else say anything else, but I think that's what we'll do. I think we'll do the DC. Let's increase our DC on this creature. Edit. I like it when a monster gives me an idea of how to solve a problem, because otherwise, unless the monster manual tells us otherwise, we don't know. Do you know what I mean? So we're making it in a 14. Now, somebody had suggested we go as high as a 15. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think a 14 will probably be more than adequate. So we'll save that. We may find ourselves in a position where the creature is about the same as it was before. So let's go and change the DC to a 14. So it says here that the defensive armor challenge rating is a quarter. Its offensive challenge rating is a 12. But again, it doesn't take into consideration, Fendar reckons DC as well, doesn't take into consideration our petrification. And this calculator doesn't take that into consideration either. Stench, superior, undead, I think that's actually probably where it needs to sit. And I would leave it as a challenge rating half monster. I wouldn't do that much more. I don't think we need to go with an armor class of 13. I mean, we could, but I think the DC increase by 1 is perfectly adequate. If we change the armor class by 1, what would it do? Still has no effect whatsoever. I don't think it needs to have anything else done to it. What are people? How are people feeling about this? Let's have a look at the final result. Let's have a look at the final result and see how people are feeling about the Cockatrice now in terms of a monster you would use at your table with your players to have a good time. Is it doing what it needs to do? Okay. Cockatrice remastered. It has an armor class of 12, not 11. It's got 36 hit points rather than the 27 it had before. It's got a fly speed of 40 feet, which is fine. Movement speed of 20 feet. We bumped up the dexterity to a 14 rather than it being just a 12, so it's got a +2 now to that. Its passive perception is still 11. It hasn't changed. It's got no language. Its challenge rating we're still going to leave at half. I think it is much better than it was before, Noroak. I agree. Your internet failed. The petrification ability we'll look in a second, because that's the thing we have to get right. The Cockatrice makes 2 melee attacks, either with its bite or claws. So we've given you the choice to do any 2 of these. They do exactly the same amount of damage. They have exactly the same effect. The only difference that they do to them is essentially they're coming from different parts of the animal, and they do different types of damage. One does piercing, one does slashing. That's the only difference there is there. This ability here, these abilities here are almost identical in their nature, as you can see. Yep. Now the petrification. Let's focus on the petrification. Petrification. If the target is hit by a bite or a claw attack or touches the tail feathers, it must succeed on a DC 14 Constitution saving throw against being magically petrified. On a failed save, the creature is petrified and turned to stone. The petrification lasts. Now we've actually stated how long it lasts. The petrification lasts until the creature is freed by a potion made from mandrake root, the Greater Restoration spell, or other magic. So we've given them 3 outs. What would be other magic? If you can think of other magic that you could use to actually get rid of petrification. Now, there used to be a spell called flesh to stone and stone to flesh. Was there not? I'm pretty sure there was, but I can't. Can I find it? Flesh to stone, stone to flesh. Go to spells. All spells. I mean, the wish spell would obviously remove this problem. So if I type in the word stone, what do I get? A gust of screechy attack, maybe. A gust of screechy attack. We don't have to do any more attack. So flesh to stone is a spell. But we don't have stone to flesh. Stone skin, stone shape, mending. Let's have a look at this spell. Envision. What's this one? This is interesting. It's 10 minutes. I'm kind of curious. It's a 6th level spell. Until spell ends, bits of rock spread across your body and gain the following benefits. Okay, so this is something else. Let's not worry about that one. Okay. Flesh to stone. Transmutation. Does it go back the other way? You attempt to turn one creature that you can see within range into stone. 6th level spell. If the target's body is made of flesh, the creature must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, it is restrained as its flesh begins to harden. On a successful save, the creature isn't affected. A creature restrained by the spell must make a Constitution saving throw at the end of each of its turns. If it successfully saves against the spell 3 times, the spell ends. If it fails its save, God, this is an awful spell. If it fails the save 3 times, you can fail it 3 times or succeed 3 times. It turns to stone and is subject to the petrified condition for the duration. The duration is... What is the duration? The success and failure doesn't need to be consecutive, keeping track of both until the target collects 3 of a kind. God, this spell is awful. If the creature is physically broken while petrified, it suffers from similar deformities. Okay, alright, so you maintain your concentration spell the entire duration. The creature is turned to stone until the effect is removed. So there is the provisor that the effect can be removed. What? You can't hear me? High level removal spell. Let me just see. I don't know why that would be the case. It should be coming through. Is anybody else having trouble with the sound coming through? Where's my plugs? Let me just see if I can get the plugs to come through. And if I can hear you, then it should be all right. And if I can't, then I know there's something up. But it should all be working fine as far as I can tell. But this could be YouTube for all I know. No, I can hear the sound coming through. Okay, I just heard it now. Yep, I just heard my voice. So there's something going on at your end rather than my end. Okay. Every time I hear petrified, I think of the disco song "I Will Survive." Yeah. Skeletons proof. Yeah, must have been something on my part. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. As long as I know how to live, I know I'll stay alive. Yeah. But it's cooked. It's cooking where I am. So hard to concentrate. Yes, it's very hot here. It's not as bad as it has been, Norok, but yeah, she's warm. Sound is good. Okay. Concentration spell check. All good here. All right. So I think I'm going to have a look at Greater Restoration. Because the provisor of saying the Mandrake root, that is your low level out. Okay? Greater Restoration. Greater Restoration. Come on. Let's see it. There it is. 5th level spell. Okay. You can reduce the target's exhaustion. One effect of charmed or petrified petrified the target. One curse, including the target's attunement. Yep, okay, so you can remove attunement to a cursed magic item. Okay, good. And any reduction to one of decay, any points. Okay, so we have actually stipulated. So the spell, there could be some arguments between players and dungeon masters about our Cockatrice, but because we've written that the Greater Restoration spell will remove the petrification and remove the stoning effect, we're all good. Mandrake potion, we've got that. Anything else that's stronger, like the wish spell, that'll probably do it as well. Okay. All right. Right, so that, I think, is actually not too bad. I'm just looking at it now to make sure I'm happy with it. But I think that's tidied it up. I would use this Cockatrice. The other one I don't like. But I think we've given ourselves a few more options. And even though it says it's a quarter, it is actually more like a 12, I think. All right, so I think that's done. I think we've fixed it. So let's go back to my face. Surprisingly, didn't I say I'm coming back to my face? Yep, we are. And we'll go over here. There we go. There we go. Okay. Fifth level remove curse. Would a fifth level remove curse do it as well, Noroak? Fifth level remove curse. I didn't even consider that. Fifth level remove curse. Okay, so if that's the case, let's have a look. I'll go back to this window again. Sorry, people. I just want to make sure we've got enough outs. Remove curse. Fifth level, remove curse. I think a Cockatrice Tarrasque might be a bit scary. I'm sure the day will come when we'll try to fix the Tarrasque, but today won't be the day. Okay, so remove curse is only a third level spell, but at your touch, all curses affecting one creature or object end. If the object is a cursed magic item, its curse remains. Its curse remains. If the object is a cursed magic item, its curse remains, but the spell breaks on its... Okay, right. Now, where did you get that level 5 remove curse would do it? Because I don't see anything in the wording that suggests anything like that. I'm wondering how you came to that conclusion. Kind of curious. Very, very curious, actually. How did you come to that conclusion? How's it going, Vinny? How are you doing? Vinny Kitty? 1 coffee, 1 tablespoon, magic missile. Well, now, what I want to do is I want to go wizard. Is it wizard or is it... No, it's not wizard. It is spells. No, it'll be cleric, isn't it? Greater Restoration cleric. Cleric, when do you get your 5th level spells? You would be about level 9 when you would be able to cast Greater Restoration. Otherwise, you need an NPC. I can live with that. And the Mandrake route gives you an option to get out earlier rather than having Greater Restoration as an option. The remove curse at level 5, I don't see that as being a viable option. So I'm not going to mention that. I think that's probably the best way to go, as we'll leave it at that. That looks right to me. Rick. That is just a suggestion. If we are being a nice DM, I personally wouldn't allow it, but I prefer to run gritty games. That's fair enough. I think we've got enough outs. Greater Restoration, Cleric, find an NPC, search out the Mandrake route, make a potion. And like that gives us plenty of outs, and we complicate their lives. And that's the job of the Dungeon Master. Dungeon Masters are supposed to complicate the lives of people. How are we doing in terms of how people... Now, the split is getting more different. Here we go. So out of 21 votes, should the Cockatrice only petrify a creature for 24 hours? Yes, 24%. No, 29%. And undecided, 33%. Don't care. Okay. All right. Agreed. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do, people. Since I don't know how else to look at this. How do they warm up their coffee? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and I don't know how people are going to feel about doing this, and how they will respond. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get this thing to actually work. Okay, there we go. I'll bring this over. and I will hit the record button, people. So we've changed the cockatrice. Cockatrice right now is a pretty tame creature. So what we've done is we've remastered it. We've increased its armor class by 1 to 12. We've given it more hit points. It now has 36 hit points on average, but its maximum hit points are going to be significantly different. Okay, that's the most important thing, to try and be more in line with a challenge rating 12, because if you look at the challenge rating for this thing, it should actually be a 0. It's that weak. We've increased its dexterity from a 12 to a 14, which now means it has a modifier of +2, not +1. We haven't done anything with dark vision or passive perception. We haven't changed its proficiency bonus. We have given it multi-attack, so it can make a claw attack, a bite attack. You get 2. You can do 2 of each. You can do 2 bites, 2 claws, or a bite and a claw. It's up to you. The petrification works differently now. It means that if you have a bite attack hit or a claw attack hit, or somebody is silly enough to touch the tail feathers of this creature, they have to make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw or be magically petrified. On a failed save, the creature is turned or petrified, turned to stone, and that's it. But we've given them an out, okay? There is no 3-step stage. This is just a 2-step stage. The out is the petrification lasts until the creature is freed by a potion made from mandrake root, which means you go and send them on a side quest, or the Greater Restoration spell, just like the Medusa's Petrification Gaze, or some other magic that would be able to do that, probably something like Wish. That's my solution for dealing with the cockatrice being a bit on the tame side for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Okay, there, it's done. I will try to use that as a little clip at some point for those of you who are interested. Interesting look at how that would work. I'm feeling much better about the whole process. I think that's going to work significantly better for everybody. But anyway, you'll let me know if you don't like it. So I would like to say thank you, Noroak. I want to thank you for the $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Great stream, as always. Love these monster videos. I love doing the monster stuff as well. AJ Pickett has insisted that I stop fiddling around with Dungeon Master advice, but the monster lore stuff is really where my head is at. But I also understand that you need help with the monster stat blocks because the players are getting all the tools and Dungeon Masters aren't getting anything. So I want to thank all of the patrons, specifically Noroak today, for a lot of his help, and for Fendar and everybody else who commented in the live chat. So thank you to everybody who showed up for the live chat, took part in that poll as well. Thank you for watching the replays of my live streams, my edited videos, and putting up with my little shorts videos. Okay, I kind of have to do them. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. True, probably not for the last time.